Hi, my name is Brian Clyett, and I wanted to welcome you to today's training course dealing with video game addiction. Now, you may be asking yourself, why did I select this course topic, and why would someone be interested in taking this course? Well, I'd like to share a little background about myself. Despite not owning a PS4, matter of fact, I've never even owned a PlayStation. I'm more of the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and Sega Genesis generation. So maybe I'm dating myself a little bit here, but reflecting back to my childhood, I kind of had a life before video games, sort of to speak. I did grow up. My first video game system was an Atari, but of course I wasn't really able to use or play with the Atari till after my homework, and the Atari essentially belonged to my older brother, so he wasn't really into sharing that much. So I did grow up around video game system, but I also grew up around the generation, or the cusp of the generation, that still enjoy life outdoors, still enjoy going outside playing with sticks and building imaginary forts and things like that. Okay, but now fast forward several years, okay, 2000, 2005, 2002. It all started with one game, GTA, the original Grand Theft Auto. Really changed the way that people get involved and play video games. It's the first kind of open scenario type game where you can kind of create your own unique game experience. Now, I mean, there were games like Duke Nukem on a computer and that kind of thing, but this was the major game that really changed the way that you play video games. More so changed the amount of time that you spend typically playing video games. So I'm going to be referencing Grand Theft Auto several times throughout this particular course. But as it's changed, people are now spending 8, 9, 10 hours a day playing video games. And I mean, think about that. If you only have 24 hours in your day and you're an adult or even a teenager, you're a transitional adult trying to get established, trying to get through school, get decent grades, and you're dedicating or playing as much as 10 hours a day playing games, then when do you sleep? When do you work? When do you study? When do you have some type of social life? When do you have some type of relationship with your significant other? Okay, and the chances are pretty slim. Okay, so these are some of the reasons that led me to wanting to develop this course in dealing with video game addiction, because I have a younger brother and a nephew that fall into that category of people that game constantly. Have a young nephew that's addicted to Call of Duty Black Ops 3. And when you take the game away, you threaten to take a game away, you know, he blows up and acts pretty bad about it. I have a younger brother that's currently in college, and he probably spends a lot more time on Fallout 4 and Assassin's Creed than he does studying for his game. So then studying for his exams and coursework. He's currently in college. All right, so this course is for parents of teenagers, for spouses or partners of adults that you think are on the cusp of video game addiction. Now, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I am a researcher and a content developer. So I've kind of put those skills to use to develop a course that is a much cheaper alternative for you to help your loved one or help yourself with your possible video game addiction. I was recently out in LA visiting a friend of mine, and I lived out in LA a few years back. Actually, on 2 occasions I've lived in LA, and I live not too far from a place called Culver City, which is a small, I guess, medium-sized city within the LA County, Los Angeles County. And on my recent visit there, there was a cafe that I used to like to go to a cafe that I frequent. They sold Indian food. I really like Indian food. But next door to where this cafe used to be, there's now a almost like a psychological practice there that actually helps people with video game addictions, similar to AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. They have something like Videogames Anonymous, and they help people with video game addiction. So we're now at a point where businesses are actually popping up to help treat people that that are showing signs and symptoms of video game addiction. So this course is a quick fix, or not necessarily a quick fix. It is a first step in trying to find some type of solution without necessarily going out and spending several $100s an hour sitting down with a psychologist about why you play video games and why you want to avoid the real world and that kind of thing. So that's the premise and the focus of this course. I'm going to give some ways of identifying or facing your problem, 6 simple questions you should ask yourself. I'm also going to help you recognize the signs of video game addiction. I'm going to give some suggestions on reducing the impact of video games in your life. For a lot of people now, video games are kind of the focus of their social life. I mean, you can put on your headset and talk with friends around the world about all types of things as you play video games with them. So a lot of people are avoiding friends kind of in the analog world and heavily preferring friends in the digital or video game world. So I'm also going to talk about some of the physical costs or the physicalities or physical symptoms of video game addiction, such as carpal tunnel, migraine headaches, some other issues that have been known to be caused by playing video games, so even sleep disturbances, sleepwalking. Then I'll get into kind of the psychology of addiction, and the psychology piece really applies to kind of any such addiction, video games also included. Outside of that, I'm going to be talking about, especially when we get down to Module 6, virtual reality and obesity. So there is now a linkage between video game and video game addiction and being obese. Okay, hence the word couch potato. Okay, so people are no longer using the proverbial couch for watching TV. They're also becoming couch potatoes that are addicted to playing video games. And then in Module 7, I'm going to cover the 5 keys to preventing stimulus addiction. Okay, how you can prevent your kids, your loved ones, your partners, your spouses from video game addiction. Because there's nothing wrong playing video games. It's just when it becomes at an obsessive level or to the point where you start to substitute analog type activities such as going out, enjoying friends and family for your game time. And then I'm going to close out with 2 additional modules. Module 8, I'm going to talk about kind of the proper steps for curing your video game addiction. So these will be some steps and some possible solutions for overcoming such an addiction. And in Module 9, I'm going to talk about steps in curing video game addiction, as well as 5 intervention methods for game intervention. And then lastly, I'm going to conclude with kind of the pros and cons of gaming addiction diagnosis. So if you are at the point where you are starting to consult a psychiatrist or psychologist as it relates to your personal video game addiction or video game addiction of your loved ones, then I will kind of give you some things to look for in selecting that professional help, as well as some updates as it relates to the American Medical Association, because recently, and I'll talk about this more in Module 10, but the American Medical Association actually recently rejected a proposal to actually include video game addiction as an official psychiatric disorder. But because it was rejected this year does not necessarily mean it will be rejected in years coming. So hopefully I will cover the brink of give you some solutions, some ideas to countering video game addiction, as well as some next steps. So this is your start. Thank you again for purchasing this course. As always, if you have any questions, always feel free to get in contact with me via email, message, or by posting a discussion board question. I will talk to you soon and see you on the other side. Bye.